Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, answer, yes! Caught! Touchdown, they did it!
Hi, cold open. I forget this board is slightly different. It's been a minute since I've run this board. Jason's been captaining the ship.
Yeah, so I've been getting used to it. Now you got to get used to it again.
Yes, I'm coming in here trying to do old habit stuff, and it's like, oh, no, that doesn't work here anymore because it's changed. Anyway, happy Friday.
Just looking at Jason's microphone.
It's like unscrewed right now. Yeah. I'm trying to screw back in so it doesn't fall off in the middle of the show.
All right. Well, welcome to
We're off to a great start, everybody.
It is Friday, though, and it's beautiful outside in Cache Valley. So let's take those as wins. We've got Temple coming up tomorrow. We've got a full high school football stuff to get to, and we're disconnecting things. All right, heavy equipment being used in the fan studio right now.
Good stuff. So we'd love to hear from you. Be a part of the show. 435-339-0321. That's our Full Court Press text line. And a lot of different things we're going to get through, as mentioned. We're going to cover a lot of different bases: high school football, college football, Utah State, athletics. We had a doozy of a soccer game yesterday, and a doozy of a volleyball game as well in the Spectrum with Spectrum Magic Night for Utah State volleyball. Some reports suggesting that Utah State could be reconsidered for the Pac-12. Wow. So we'll get into that a little bit. Making the case for Utah State for the Pac-12, if we can get into that. And just looking at the weekend coming up here for both the Mountain West and college football and overall the NFL as well this weekend. So a lot of different things to get to. We love Fridays because there's so much to look forward to and look ahead at and tease, if you will. In addition to any last thoughts that you might have as we get ready for Utah State at Temple. So pregame coverage will begin at 10 a.m. on our sister station, KVNU, with KVNU Aggie Game Day. And then kickoff at noon, and the game can be seen on ESPN+. But if you're out and about Saturday afternoon getting work done, chasing kids between Little League games, have your radio with you and tune in to hear how the Utah State Aggies are doing at Temple on a Saturday afternoon. So, gentlemen, let's do this first. Let's get into this. What's coming up on the calendar this weekend for the Mountain West Conference. This is not really a lot that's, I want to say, sexy on the Mountain West calendar. It's an opportunity for the conference to pick up a lot of wins, something that they've struggled to do collectively to the start of the season. I mean, Jason and I went into wondering if the Mountain West sucks this year outside of the top two teams.
We had a whole segment. Does the Mountain West suck now?
Yes. But notable game tonight with San Jose State at Washington State. Game starts at 8 o'clock on the CW network. And this is an opportunity for existing Mountain West schools to play well. San Jose State has not been yet part of the Fortunate Four or the Unfaithful Four. And the Spartans are off to a pretty decent start this year. So two undefeated teams squaring off in Pullman tonight with Washington State favored by 13
A chance for us to see San Jose State for the first time, see what they can do. New coach there, new program, and seems like a new attitude in the beginning of the season, going 3-0 versus 3-0 up there with Washington State.
Yeah, and Nick Nash up there absolutely putting up numbers. I mean, he's got 34 receptions. He had 17 catches last week. So he already had 17 catches through 2 games. Then he threw on a 17-catch, 200-plus yard game, 3 touchdowns, about doubled his statistical season in just 1 game. And so he's playing really well. You got Dr. Emmett Brown there. I don't know if he's a doctor yet, but quarterback for San Jose State. I don't know how many Back to the Future jokes he gets told on the daily, but yeah, I think this is basically your like one really interesting matchup of the week, I think. I don't know if you're exactly tuning into Northern Iowa against Hawaii. I mean, if you're into staying up super late to watch a 9:59 kickoff, I don't know how they decided 9:59 as opposed to just wait a minute.
I think they do that so that it doesn't show on Eastern time zones as that's a next day kickoff or next day game.
I guess
so they slide that in just to that get it into on this day or whatever. So it's on that Saturday. Part of the Saturday schedule instead of a Sunday.
That makes sense. I'll give him that.
Hawaii should really invest into the mainland insomnia crowd. I mean, that would be a great kind
Well, they already have like the market. There's the Hawaii Challenge, like the Reddit college football account, Sickos Committee. That's free marketing for Hawaii. Can you stay up late enough to watch Hawaii play some random team, in Honolulu or this game's in Honolulu. So it's like, can you stay up late enough to watch? It's usually not necessarily an interesting game by most standards, although a lot of times they are decent games. The fact that a lot of times they are close, and usually Hawaii is putting up points. So there's something to watch if you're wanting to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch Hawaii, or if you're on the East Coast, basically just pull an all-nighter just so you can watch a team almost halfway across the world at that point.
Well, if you're an East Coaster, then games begin. Some games. There's a few cases where games will begin around 11 a.m. on the East Coast, but then they'll go all the way till this one starting at about midnight if you're on the East Coast.
Well, there are times because there's been 10 a.m. kickoffs here at Utah State. So you're talking about an 8 a.m. start if you're on the East Coast. I don't know how many people were
wanting. It would be a noon kick on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Noon kickoff. So I guess I've got my times backwards. I'm thinking of the Pacific or whatnot.
It's a good thing that I'm a West Coast football sports fan, because if we were over on the East Coast, I'm sorry, Eric, I probably wouldn't be here most Mondays and Tuesdays.
That's the thing.
It takes a while to recover.
When people rank, what are the best time zones to watch sports? And typically Pacific time zone is the best. And I tend to agree, but you're basically going west to east. It's Pacific, then Mountain, or you could even argue Mountain is better because it's not too early, but it's not too late. Because in the Pacific, you can end up with games that start during the workday. And Mountain is kind of in that sweet spot where it's not too late, it's not too early. You can pretty much get everything.
You get off work, you're able to hit Monday Night Football. You're able to hit those things in the Mountain Time. I've living in the Pacific time zone for a majority of my life. Hallelujah for Mountain time starting at 11 and then 2. And then you have, it's just awesome to watch football. I couldn't imagine being on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would as a fanatic I am, but 3 a.m. text to Jason will get a little bit old on you.
Yeah, there you go. No, but the game tonight has me really interested because Washington State in the coaches poll is just on the outside looking in. They're effectively ranked 26th. San Jose State also received a vote in the coaches poll. Washington State is also getting some votes in the AP poll, not quite as high, but not that far behind. So these are two schools that both have had a pretty good start to the season. San Jose, I don't know if they have a really notable win on their resume as of yet, outside of beating Air Force. Washington State certainly had their notable win over Washington. So this is going to be an interesting showdown to see who is for real and who's just been maybe lucky based on their resume and their season to this point.
Washington State on a short week after a very, very emotional win at the Apple Cup. That's a big deal for Cougs fans in the Coug community there. So maybe a short week, emotional. fatigue, maybe? San Jose State shows up?
Well, in San Jose State, they're going to have more to prove because more people believed in Washington State. I mean, it's not like Washington State was a hyped preseason team, but when I saw them on the preseason rankings, they were a middling team. People believed they'd be solid, even with some of the losses they had this offseason. So they believe more in Washington State. They're right on the edge of the coaches being ranked in one of the polls. In San Jose State, they're kind of there, getting some votes. But they are trying to prove, hey, we're for real. It's not just that we're beating an Air Force that might be having a down year. Or was it Sacramento State that they beat up on?
Yeah.
Kennesaw State, like not the most daring record for the Spartans. But you get a win here, you knock off a 3-0 team, and everyone will immediately start taking the Spartans seriously as opposed to being like, well, are you really real?
Well, and Washington State's favored by 13. Like, I get it that Washington State should be favored in this one. It's at their place. They have probably a stronger resume to this point, but 13? That just seems pretty aggressive.
It's kind of a slap in the face. We're a 3-0 team. You lose by 2 touchdowns to it.
Seems like there's a little juice to that from beating UW last week. To maybe there's a little gap in that. I feel like that's going to be closer than this point spread shows.
Could be. But the day for the Mountain West on Saturday gets underway with the first game of the conference taking place in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, with the Utah State Aggies at Temple. Again, that'll be on ESPN+. 1 o'clock, Nevada hosting Eastern Washington. No national coverage for that one. No surprise. Colorado State.
What do you mean? That's the best matchup of the week.
1 and 2 Eastern Washington at 1 and 3 Nevada.
Aren't they the ones that have the red field, or is that somebody else?
It is so ugly. I don't know how it's allowed, but it surpasses the Boise State ugliness of their field. Yes, it is a red field, and it makes my eyes bleed when I watch it.
They do have like an 8 out of 10 logo, though. Eastern Washington's logo is pretty good.
Yeah.
Their field, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. UTEP at Colorado State, a team that may be trying to show interest to the Mountain West, trying to create a resume, though they're 0-3. They don't look very good.
This is their tryout. Can they beat Colorado State? I mean, we already had the reports when a bunch of the 4 teams, so Boise State didn't play, but I think San Diego State and Colorado State both lost pretty badly, and then the reports are coming out. Well, the Pac-12 may just bring the whole Mountain West after they saw how those guys played.
Yes, so that 3 o'clock kickoff on True TV, one of the part of this new package of the Mountain West on Turner stations, so True TV and Max. I've never checked in on Max if you can watch these games. I haven't really seen how that works.
I've never subscribed to it. I know plenty of people do. I don't, so I assume some people can watch it there. Probably more than tune into True TV, which is the back end of your cable package.
The streaming quality on Max for sports is just outstanding. It's crystal clear. I really, really enjoy it. Instead of trying to find where True TV is on the satellite dish.
Yeah, the only time people ever, at least people like me ever try and find True TV is when you're trying to watch the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, and
the only other thing it has is Impractical Jokers, but the only other thing that shows up on it.
And that is worth watching most nights. Interesting thing though about True TV and being a part of the Turner family since of channels, since they lost out on the NBA, there's a lot of speculation that they could be one of the aggressive media outlets to be interested in a new media deal for either the Pac-12 or the Mountain West. So a network of stations that's interested in trying to fill inventory and elevate its level of producing live sports.
What a great package to be able to connect with all the teams in the Mountain West if that were to come to fruition.
Yeah, but the thing is the Pac-12 is going to be fighting for them too, because right now the Pac-12's options are the CW. And that's pretty much the only one who's taken them so far that I know of. Maybe they can try and get Apple, but I imagine Turner Sports is probably the one they're gunning for the most to at least get something mainstream. I know the CW shows up on basically every TV.
It's on every. It's a regular part of your any cable channel, cable package. It's.
But for me, most of what I remember the CW for was reruns of old crime shows or whatnot.
Arrow,
what was that one? Criminal Minds
and the Flash.
And then they had the whole Arrowverse and all that.
Yes.
Not really known for sports, but Yeah, if you
They're trying to change that. I think ACC also has games on the CW.
Yeah, but yeah, if it's available to everyone can watch. I mean, I think the WNBA's been on the CW. So
I really hope that the football gods step in and put the Pac-12 on like the Harpo Network or Oprah's Network or Lifetime or Oxygen.
Ion.
the Longhorn Network.
Yes.
Bring back the Pac-12, the Pac-12 Network. Or is that one officially gone, or is it still around?
That's a good question. I know they still have a lot of the infrastructure for the TV, like master control and production facilities, but I don't know if they still have that channel.
Yeah, it's probably not still broadcasting games, especially since we're getting games on the CW for Washington State and Oregon State.
Yeah. A couple of the games quickly to go through. Wyoming at North Texas, and the Cowboys have just had a really rough start to the season. I don't know if it's going to get any better. North Texas is a pretty decent team, and they're favored by 7, 5 o'clock on ESPN Plus.
This is the rabbit hole I went down today. I thought North Texas was the team in Necessary Roughness, that 1991 movie with Scott Bakula and Kathy Ireland. That just one of my favorite football movies. And then that led me down the rabbit hole, and I saw Wyoming 7-point dog on that. So, man, I spent some time on the message boards for the Wyoming fans and stuff, and it's almost like right now I just want to get them a sympathy win because I'm really worried about the situation
it's a rough start.
up there.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that I remember North Texas for these days are one, Mean Joe Green, and then the other one is Utah State beating them in the New Mexico Bowl, I want to say it was, back in 2018.
They have played North Texas, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the last time I remember that. But yeah, Wyoming, kind of a do or die. I mean, not technically, but you go 0-4. That's not good.
It's hard to see Wyoming getting to a bowl game if they lose this one.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Let's see. Fresno State at New Mexico. Bulldogs off to a pretty good start. Favored by 13 over the Lobos. 6:30 on True TV. So that will be the game that follows the UTEP Colorado State game. And this could be kind of interesting in just that New Mexico shows signs of being competitive, but they just can't stop their opponents.
Yeah, they score points and then they give up a ton, which that may be where this 13-point spread comes from, because Fresno State's probably going to drop another 48 points on the second straight New Mexico-based team it's facing. But New Mexico might manage to get 31, 35 points, and that spread may be fairly close to reality. But Fresno State will probably still win comfortably, even if the Lobos do manage to put up a few yards.
Yes. Then we get to the nightcap, 7:45 on FS1. Boise State hosting Portland State. Boise favored by 41.5. That is an incredible spread. Now, Portland State is the team that had their game canceled last week because of whooping cough.
Excuse me.
They were all cleared earlier this week that they could still play and have enough players to have a game. But that game will be in Boise. Boise had the bye week last week after narrowly losing to Oregon. So they get a chance to show off on national television at 7:45 Saturday night.
See, the thing is, whooping cough usually shuts down an elementary school for a couple of days. It usually doesn't cancel a football game.
I bet they wish a 41-point spread that maybe it canceled this week. I mean, that's kind of a brutal point spread just come out. Like,
get players on the sideline. Excuse me, coach. I don't think I can go anymore. But Eric, you said it was the nightcap, but we still have one more game.
True. We'd mentioned Hawaii hosting Northern Iowa.
I mean, unless you've got the Spectrum Sports subscription, you probably aren't watching the Hawaii game.
True.
Because that's typically where it's at, like a pay-per-view.
Hard to find. Hawaii is a 7-point favorite. Incidentally enough, Boise State, Portland State, that is the highest total combined score prediction at 68.5. Of all Mountain West games.
They're expecting Boise to put up, 40 points or more, and they're expecting Portland State to put up another.
They're expecting Portland State to score something
like 17 or so points. I don't know what the math on that is. Maybe
but they're expecting a lot of points out of the Broncos.
The reality is the Broncos putting up 60-something points and Portland State putting up nothing.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
The expectation, like it's 59-7. That is a high point total.
I feel like sometimes in the over the total that when they look at it, sometimes a spread this big, they're like, We're going to throw some sympathy points out there for the other team to make them, actually show up to the game.
Could be. Yeah, it could be a little bit. Just we hope you're there. We hope you show up.
Please show up, make this game compelling. And, of course, at that point, the bettors are about the only people who care about the game.
Right, and especially that time of night. All right, we got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. We do have some texts coming through. Love to get more of yours as well. 435-339-0321. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going on to the Mountain West in the Pac-12. There was a report from Ross Dellinger on Yahoo Sports that does include Utah State. Some mention about the Aggies with the Pac-12. We'll see how legitimate that might look. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Fall is here. This is Mark at the Sportsman on Main Street. I invite you into our amazing store to see the new fall collection of amazing clothing, shoes, and outerwear for women and men. We have brands like Cool, Fiore, Fjallraven, and we have brought in some new brands from Europe that you will love. Trust me, you will look truly unique in whatever you buy from the Sportsman. Come in and let us take care of you. You'll be glad you did. For over 75 years, come and see us at the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
S.C. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. Couples throughout the state buy their rings from S.C. Needham Jewelers because of our low prices, extensive ring selection, and extraordinary benefits and services with financing available. Go to scneedham.com to learn more. We have many unique and beautiful engagement rings starting at $500. You'll find affordable engagement rings with our integrity price guarantee. This is why we are where Utah gets engaged. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.C. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker. Love to have you part of the show as well. 435-339-0321. And a couple of texts that have come in. Let's get to those. 2444. I saw JD's tweet previewing the KVNU Game Day pregame show for tomorrow. Would love to hear the scheduled interviews, but likely won't be able to listen live. Is there any way that the pregame shows could be posted to the KVNU on-demand podcast feed, similar to how the postgame show is? As far as the posting the podcasts, that's something that we used to do for pregame, but we got very few listens. People seem to be more interested in listening to the post-game than the pregame, because then once the game was done, the pregame,
at the very least, we could probably publish the interviews.
But the interviews themselves, yeah, we could absolutely find a way to get that done. But do you have a kind of a scheduled layout.
Yeah, I think I just saw it on Twitter myself.
Yeah, we've this morning I talked to Chris Dunlap with the equipment manager for USU. We're going to have him on probably the first hour, focus on a lot of the interviews. Also, Dallin Wilson from the Herd, the president of the Herd, going to sit down and talk with us. We talk about ticket stuff and also the impact of the Herd on recruiting and game day. We also have Brian Phillips, who runs a recruiting site focused on the Aggies basketball and football, and a big week in basketball with the 2 4-star recruits and 1 3-star. And we talk about some of the early commitments. So, yeah, well, you know what? We'll find a way to get them all. I'll get them all together, and we'll
Craig
publish them.
Hislop also did an interview with the Temple play-by-play voice, and so
all the interviews,
all of them. It is a packed, and we will sit down with you guys and have a roundtable. I think we can wrangle you guys in on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe hear from some players and the coaches as well. So
absolutely,
it'll be a packed hour and 45 minutes of pregame coverage on KVNU leading up to the kickoff in Philadelphia.
All the best pregame content starting 2 hours before the show. Or before the
kickoff.
The kickoff, the real show.
The real show. 2603 texting in, what are your opinions on what happens with the Mountain West and the Pac moving forward?
Yeah, that's the thing, is things are kind of constantly changing, where it's like I'm not sure one way or the other. Kind of the newest little nugget that may have been sprinkled on top of this was Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, right?
Yes.
And he had another one of the, you have guys like him, Dennis Dodd, that are kind of on top of this from a national perspective, among others. And you kind of trust their reporting because they're usually talking with executives and they've got an ear in the room. And just kind of like this one sentence out of the entire article talking about a host of things largely focused on whether or not Memphis or Tulane or even South Florida end up in the Pac-12. Just kind of dropped that one little bit where it's like, if, Memphis, Tulane aren't necessarily on board with, having to go cross country to be in a conference, that UNLV, Air Force, and Utah State may be the ones that the Pac-12 look to.
As Dellinger reports today on Yahoo, he says the 3 AA schools going west would likely eliminate the possibility of any more Pac-12 poaching of the Mountain West. Ahem, UNLV, Air Force, and Utah State. So it really kind of hinges on Memphis. Really, this is what the article is mostly about. Does Memphis decide to go west? If not, do they stay where they're at with the AAC? If they decide to stay put, that may open the door wider for Utah State to get into the Pac-12.
Now, an interesting thing with all of this is that when I see some of the dialogue from Memphis and South Florida, I've not so much seen it from Tulane. They seem to view the Pac-12 as a temporary solution with eyes on the ACC being the end goal, as in they're not necessarily like super on board, Pac-12 all the way, go buy the Tulane Pac-12 merch now. It's more of a, hey, we'll get into a slightly better conference, and then if the ACC kind of falls apart, if Florida State, Clemson end up dipping out, then they'll try and ride into the ACC and kind of be fill-ins there. As teams like Memphis and South Florida are kind of your next schools up as far as teams that may end up, or programs that may end up in a power conference. Just like out west, it was San Diego State and Boise State. Memphis, South Florida kind of filling that role there. So it's kind of interesting where that's their perspective on joining the Pac-12 as opposed to teams in the Mountain West who would view the Pac-12 as a long-term solution.
Yeah, a few other notes from Dellinger's report, and this is near the end. It's, as mentioned, if Memphis does stay east, it could severely disable the Mountain West Conference. It says the Pac-12 is likely to turn attention to UNLV, Air Force, and Utah State. This is what really gets me. 3 programs that have or will soon see the league's presentation to expansion members.
So like a PowerPoint? Do they like sit Diana Sabo down in a room and be like, all right, so here, let's go over this slide here. You'll see the benefits of joining the Pac-12.
Next slide, here's the ocean. Next slide, here's a sunset over the ocean.
Next slide, here's me standing next
Here's my cocktail on the beach. Yeah, so I don't know what that looks like, what that presentation entails, but it's certainly something that's on the table to discuss. And also the thing that really stands out to me in Dellinger's report is that there are multiple people who believe, who have seen the Pac-12 presentation. This is what they're pitching: a projected per school distribution as much as 12 to 15 million. That's a significant increase for the Mountain West, and it's still an increase over what the AAC is getting. It would require at least a 5-year grant of rights agreement, so that would go through 2030, 2031, and presenting a base distribution model that includes a performance-based bonus concept. So this is something that the ACC is moving towards, and we've seen others play with and consider that if you perform well, you get a little extra piece of the pie because you got there. You should be rewarded for what you did, rather than saying, let's just play socialism here. I did well, but doesn't matter. The guy down the row that didn't do anything is getting the same portion as I got. So they're trying to change that model a little bit, and that's part of their pitch to these AAC schools, notably Memphis, Tulane, and South Florida.
Yeah, and a big key to the AAC schools is the fact that their media rights deal, as of right now, isn't too much less than what the Pac-12 was projecting. And there's some people that are doubtful about the Pac-12's projections. And I mean, they famously oversold themselves once before to their significant detriment. But the thing is, even if they're overselling it slightly, the AAC's valuation, their TV deal is going to go down. And apparently something I'm seeing from all the AAC is there's this look-in that is a call for ESPN with their media deal, which happens in 2026, where they basically check in and say, all right, how are we doing? Have a doctor's visit regarding the health of the conference. And if they decide that they want to lower the amount of payout, then I guess there's some process in which they can do that. I don't know exactly how that decision gets made, and if the AAC can try and keep that number up, like negotiate it up, or how those go. But
they'll try to make a case that they still have that same value. But if they continue to be poached,
well, the thing is, even as they are now,
if they don't get poached, they've already been poached.
Yeah, they already lost Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. Their three biggest, maybe aside from Memphis, who kind of got left right on the edge there.
Well, SMU as well.
Yeah, SMU as well. So it's like they lost so much of their value with a lot of their schools. They're not going to get that same deal. And it's just not going to happen.
ESPN holds the rights to that?
Yeah, I believe so. It's a deal with ESPN.
There's no way they're going to get the same deal.
And look, ESPN's cutting across the board. ESPN's parent company's cutting across the board too. If they're going to save money, they're going to save money.
Yeah, so it's probably going to go down to a similar number to where the Mountain West is right now, I'd imagine, which is it's about 5, 3, or 4.
I think the Mountain West distribution is about $4 or $5 million.
Yeah, somewhere in that 5, give or take.
The AAC is about 8.
Yeah, so it's probably going to fall down to where the Mountain West is, and so that's something that Memphis and South Florida and Tulane have to consider. Is look, that money's going to go down, and even if it's temporary, because they're not seeing the AAC as a long-term thing. But is it worth it to go west? Get a better TV deal, but also incur more travel costs and all that. And then they do have to look themselves in the mirror and truly ask, what are the actual odds of them getting into the ACC, that end goal? That's the thing they're going to be laboring over for the next little bit.
But being a short-term option for the Pac-12, I mean, that's got to make the Pac-12 think a little twice if somebody's going to jump after a couple of years and then throw this conference back into some hectic. I heard you talking the numbers for the AAC and the Mountain West. What does the Pac-12 want, and what is a realistic amount, do you think, per team?
Well, and that's what kind of is an eyebrow raiser for me. According to their presentation, the Pac-12 is projecting a per school distribution of as much as 12 to 15 million. And that really seems high for basically the Mountain West plus a school or two that it didn't have before.
Yeah, your guys, if Colorado State and Boise State and Fresno State and San Diego State couldn't draw close to 10 million, per school like in the Mountain West, what on earth makes you think they're going to do that if you just add Oregon State and Washington State, the two schools that nobody wanted out of the Pac-12.
Because you add the magical Pac-12 logo to the credit card.
Yeah, basically, it's branding. It's branding. You put new packaging on it.
It's like the Louis Vuitton of conferences right now.
Made in the same factory, just has a different logo.
Yeah, that's essentially what we're talking. That's the Mountain West versus the Pac-12. It just has the branding.
Yeah. Now there's some speculation. Dellinger doesn't get into this, but there was somebody else, and maybe it was Dennis Dodd on CBS. But there have been some speculation that the Mountain West would be getting an increased media deal that would improve upon what they're getting now, that $4 to $5 million. And on the high side, it was going to rival the American Athletic Conference, which was about $8 million per school. So, but even then, that's 10 to 12. The Pac-12 has been famous for overvaluing its importance and value, which caused its undoing. So I'm a little cautious if schools look at that and get a little excited about those numbers and make a decision in haste without checking their own sources to see if that's a legitimate figure that could be realistic.
See, and that's what's so stupid about all of this is that the Pac-12 is going to likely spend $100+ million just so they can have a media deal that would basically be the same that the Mountain West was going to get. Like I said, that some people have quipped this before, but they're paying $100 million so they don't have to be in a conference with San Jose State, as if that's a fate worse than death somehow. Come on, the Spartans don't smell bad. They're just fine. Why are we picking on them? And picking on New Mexico and Nevada. We're acting like they're the trash we threw out last week when it's like, okay, are you that desperate? They're willing to spend more money than most Americans will make in their lifetime just so you don't have to share a room with them? Like, what the heck?
You mispronounced UNR.
931.
I'm trying to be nice to them at this point. I'm not trying to. If I want to tick them off, I'll write UNR. Hopefully, they never see my notes because I write that all the time in my notes.
Yeah, a couple of texts coming in from 9315. How much money would Memphis have to spend in travel expenses?
I thought I saw Dellinger say, because I was looking for this, or I was going to start looking for this number yesterday. I think he said it was about $2 million. If you're like, that's more, East Coast. Like if you're, I don't know if he said that was Memphis or South Florida, but I thought I remember seeing a line in there somewhere about travel costs approaching $2 million.
Well, I think Memphis has one of the stats the Pac-12 will look for with losing USC. The homicide rate there is the 25th highest in the nation, kind of right there with Southern California. So that's a benefit for Memphis joining the Pac-12. But it's just the travel expenses, the hope of maybe joining their wishful conference, like it just doesn't seem like a great deal.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is that Memphis could very well go. I'm kind of banking on them leaving at this point just because I think they're going to see the writing on the wall with the AAC's media deal, and I don't think travel for Memphis is going to be that big of a deal for them. They're at least a little bit closer to the Pacific Coast as opposed to South Florida, who I think you might be able to see the Pacific Ocean in two different directions from their campus.
Actually, South Florida, if you catch a flight like east, you might get there quicker.
A couple of things I need to stand corrected on. The Mountain West media distribution is about $5 to $6 million. So a little more than I had initially said. Another thing, too, is that there is a penalty for leaving the AAC. It's a $10 million penalty, and you have to give 27 months notice.
Which at this point, that's about...
If you leave before 27 months, that fee increases to a negotiated amount.
Yeah, which SMU had to pay that, and they cite that, I forget what the number is, but they think they cite
$25 million.
Yeah, $25 million. So it was quite a bit for them. So granted, if the Pac-12 wants
$25 million fee.
Yeah, $25 million, the one-time fee.
Yeah.
So the Pac-12 technically has the money to just throw at this problem of exit fees. It's a luxury that most conferences tend not to have, or well, I mean, a conference like the Pac-12. If you're the SEC and Big 12, you're basically already sitting on.
Well, they print money.
Yeah,
they print money.
They just put $10 million exit fee. All right, here you go. Just
We'll call 2 boosters and get it taken care of.
I'll skip lunch, and that'll take care of that expense. So,
a couple other texts from 9315. Would that cost more than the extra amount you make? No, you'd make more in the TV distribution than your added travel costs.
Yeah.
And then I would bet the Pac-12 presentation was something like the cartoon Scrooge McDuck picture and videos of the conference swimming in money.
There we go. They just photoshopped each school's logo onto the Scrooge diving into the pile of money.
If you look closely at that, I think you see SEC logos on the coins themselves.
We're talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission or the Southeastern Conference?
Yeah, they're the ones literally swimming in money. 6328 before we hit a timeout. Does Stanford and Cal go back to the Pac?
So that's something that a lot of people throw out, and myself included. I kept thinking of that, and I've said that multiple times on the show. And something I keep learning during this process, like I learned about the look-in for ESPN with the AAC, and as several people have pointed out that are covering this nationally, is that the whole grant of rights with the AACC, that's tying Stanford and Cal in for the long haul. Into the 2030s, I believe. And it's what's keeping Florida State and Clemson. That's what they're suing over, is the fact that that's tying them to the conference. And so that same thing is keeping Stanford and Cal from going back to the Pac-12, at least anytime soon.
There's a lot of Pac-12 fans that are hoping for Cal and Stanford to come home.
And I would too. But
that's, not anytime soon, unless these legal wranglings with Florida State and Clemson somehow undo a lot of the contracts that have been signed by all those member institutions in the ACC to free them to seek a release. But right now, they're pretty well bound to the ACC for quite a while. So unless the entire system comes undone, which is still a possibility.
Yeah, if Clemson, Florida State's lawsuit of I don't want to be here anymore, if they're suing for that, I guess.
Would that just turn every conference and contract into the Wild West, possibly?
Maybe, but it may.
Is it not already?
It may accelerate this concept of let's just treat football as something different.
That'd be nice.
And then all other sports, let's go back to sanity and be more regionally based. But that's still something that's out there.
But that makes sense, guys. So
we can't do it. Obviously, we can do it. It makes sense.
All right, another timeout here in the Full Court Press. Still love to hear from you on this topic. 435-339-0321 here on the Full Court Press.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker. Interesting report in Yahoo Sports from Ross Dellinger. It focuses mostly on Memphis. They seem to be the linchpin here on what happens with the American Athletic Conference if Tulane or South Florida go to the Pac-12. Kind of depends on if Memphis goes, then they will follow. And if they don't go, then how the Pac-12 pivots back to the Mountain West and may be considering Utah State along with UNLV and Air Force. And, to that, Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports the other day put together a list of some of the schools in the Mountain West, those that are left behind, and what their rankings are in viewership for college football. And he didn't, what I wish he would have done, and he didn't list where Boise State, Fresno State, or Colorado State rank, but he listed the ranks for Washington State, Oregon State, and everybody else in the Mountain West. But Air Force would be ranked 81st. Since TV viewership since 2016. And so he says that Air Force is at 81st, Utah State at 83rd, Wyoming at 84, San Diego State at 86, Hawaii 94, Nevada 100, New Mexico 102, San Jose State 103, UNLV 104.
And so the thing is that I remember seeing lists like this and Utah State being in kind of that low 80s where they would fit in with like the back end of the Pac-12 as far as that specific rank. Where, yeah, that's something where Utah State draws eyeballs.
In comparison, Washington State, Oregon State, he did provide their rankings. Washington State came in at 43 and Oregon State at 64. Now, you're 43 and 64 and you're not good enough to go to the Big 10 or the Big 12.
Yeah.
You get left behind because 43 and 64 apparently don't cut it. But I also don't really love this since 2016 because it kind of ignores some recent trends. Like UNLV is definitely on an uptick. And to see San Jose State, they've been an improving football team the last 3 or 4 seasons. But before then, they were terrible. So it's a pretty big disparity in this span of time, this 8-year span. Some teams are pretty consistent. Boise State is pretty consistent. Fresno State is pretty consistent. But beyond that, I mean, Air Force has been pretty consistent over that span of time. But a lot of other schools in the Mountain West have had some ups and downs in that span of time, which is interesting.
Yeah, and the thing that I'd say, and there's some numbers to back this up, and I've been digging into some of them. I don't have all of them in front of me and quite yet to present. But the overwhelming kind of consensus I get from the numbers is that Utah State very much punches above its weight. The issue is if you look at the raw numbers, Utah State can struggle to fit in with a lot of the teams, even in the Mountain West, as far as attendance. They don't have nearly as high attendance as a lot of the teams in the Mountain West, but they actually draw a higher percent of the population than most teams in the Mountain West. They're punching above their weight. They're filling their stadium to capacity more so than other teams like live in higher populated areas. So it's easier for them to, when you live in an area that has like 5 million people in a 50-mile radius, it's easy to get 20,000 people in a stadium. When Utah State's got about 650,000 people in a 50-mile radius, well, getting 25,000 people is hard, but they can do that on occasion and can get consistently 20,000. And they punch above their weight with TV and just in success overall with their budget. They get a lot of bang for their buck. Like imagine if you bring them into a conference, give them a bit more money, I can imagine they can start doing even better. And so, I mean, if Utah State, that's the pitch. But the problem is teams want to see those budgets already there. They want to see the attendance in bigger stadiums already there. So it doesn't matter to a lot of these guys, or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe there's a hint that they are paying attention to that. But there's been an idea that just because Utah State doesn't have all those things already there, that it's not worth bringing into the, bringing to the big boys club or the bigger boys club, because it is the reduced Pac-12.
It's got fancier branding.
We're talking about Oregon State, and I've attended games at what they call the stadium. I was there 5 or 6 years ago when half the stadium was gone and under construction. A big celebration for that program is to make it to like the Outback.com Bowl or something like that. And attendance, we could get Civil War tickets for nothing to go up there to Corvallis. So I have seen empty stadiums up there. It's not like these are the big heavyweights, that brand of the Pac-12. It's like coming in really with the wish.com version of the Pac-12 and say Oregon State and Washington State are our, stalwarts. But Boise State's going to give them a run for football. Like, it's going to give them a hard run. Basketball-wise, they're not really strong basketball. So Utah State joins the Pac-12. That's a chance to beat up on those two schools. Oregon State, baseball. They're a baseball school. They've done some pretty significant things. They put, I believe, one of the first picks overall in the MLB draft last year into Major League Baseball, but not really football. It's not. I keep seeing Pac-12 fans, and, God bless them. I know they're trying to keep their conference together, talking like these are two superpowers coming in here. But really, we're talking about the rest of the conferences being the Avengers, and these guys are like the DC guys that got left behind in the bad, Black Adam movie or something like that. It's just it's not powerful. So there's not this big gain. So looking at the opportunity, of course, USU joining the Pac-12, I think it'd be big for basketball and, of course, football money-wise. But I'm really interested to see all this hoopla making the Pac-12 like $15 million a year to schools. Like, how are they going to be financially feasible in the future with all these, different level of schools than the USCs, UCLAs, Stanfords, Washington, Oregon? That's not going to be as much money coming in for those guys. Is the Pac-12 going to be able to sustain this long term?
Yeah, I've got to take a quick break. We'll continue to discuss that and get your reactions as well. 435-339-0321.
Copiers, printers, service, and supplies are just the beginning. Les Olson IT is the premier source for your business's structured cabling, IT, software, telephones, and security systems. We partner with you to find the ideal solution to all of your office technology needs. Tell us your goals and we'll get you there. Find out more at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT. You are the dancing queen.
Nothing better than a great song from 1976. Hi, this is Bob Larson with LSS Insurance, and I'm talking to you, graduating class of 76. Even if you're still working or getting ready to retire, Medicare is a conversation we need to have. Let us help you understand Medicare and all your options. Don't rely on TV ads or annoying phone calls. Having a local agent makes all the difference. Call LSS at 752-9493. Call 752-9493.
Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your health matters.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Days are getting shorter. It means temperatures are also getting cooler. So prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. If your battery's more than 4 years old, make sure you stop in and get it tested before it leaves you stranded in the cold. And if you need a new battery, they'll help you install it as well. So go check them out. Locally owned, Preston and Providence, Napa Auto Parts. So interestingly enough, just looking at this 8-year window that was mentioned from Dennis Dodds about these schools and what their TV viewership has been like. In that span of time, Boise State, and we discussed this during the break, what is considered a good season at this level? And I think we all kind of agreed 8 or more wins would be considered a good season. So in that 8-year span of time, I guess really 7 because this year doesn't count. But in that span of time, Boise State has had 6 8-win seasons, 8 or more win seasons. San Diego State has had 4. Fresno State has had 5. Colorado State, 0. So it's interesting that
that's the thing.
How much they've been elevated through all this discussion, and yet they have not really earned that opportunity like some of these other schools have.
They've pretty much earned it entirely off of budget and their perception of being in the Denver market.
Air Force had 5. USU has had 2. Wyoming's had 4. Then Hawaii and Nevada, both 2 apiece. New Mexico, UNLV, 1 apiece. San Jose State, 0. No seasons in that span of time if they had 8 or more wins.
They might have done it in
Spartans.
2020.
Well, considering, ranks, in 2020, they were ranked 24th in the country.
Yeah, because they only played like 6 or 7 games in 2020. So
and that's something else I could look at. How many times did they finish nationally ranked in that span of time? Because San Jose State got it once.
The one time. Basically, their one good season since like 2012.
Yes. Boise State's hit it on a number of occasions. Fresno State has.
UNLV has never done it.
Utah State has twice in that span. So anyway, interesting discussion about the future of the Mountain West and where Utah State sits in that. And are they going to stay in the Mountain West, or do they end up getting the invite to go to the Pac-12? And if they get the invitation, do they accept it? Of course, you don't extend an invitation unless you're going to accept it.
That's true. That's something that's been said.
All right. We'll discuss a lot more next hour here on the Full Court Press. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. When you sit down to watch a game on TV, every once in a while there's a player so impressive, it only takes a couple of moments to identify him as the team's best player. Shohei Ohtani is one of those talents. The Dodgers star made Major League history yesterday. Ohtani went 6 for 6, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and 10 RBIs, en route to becoming the first 50-50 player in baseball history. If that wasn't impressive enough, this may not even be the 2-time MVP's peak. Think about everything he's been through. His best friend stole $16 million from him in an illegal gambling investigation. He's currently rehabbing from reconstructive elbow surgery, and he's doing this in his first season on a new team in a new league. Not to mention, the first time in 3 years he's been able to focus solely on hitting. It may sound crazy, but there may be room to grow for baseball's best player. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.